Hello. So, this time, because we already know that we can make an anime, the question is, how do we go about it? And even before that, what do we need in order to do it? When it comes to hardware, it's pretty straightforward. You need some kind of computer or laptop that is strong enough for some kind of editing program. And, because compared to a mouse it saves you an incredible amount of time, I would say that you do need a drawing tablet. But nowadays you can get some very cheap ones off the internet, and they mostly work just as fine as an expensive one. That's pretty much it when it comes to hardware must-haves. So it's not that much. Obviously, if you want to dub your anime yourself, because you think your sweet angelic voice has to be heard, you will also need a microphone. Again, cheap stuff will do well to a certain extent. So getting this stuff isn't the hard part, as it isn't in most hobbies, or I'll say careers if you really believe in yourself, but actually doing the deed is. So how does the process look like in an anime studio, and how should we, the one-man studio, do it? These are my 5 main steps, and those are just all my personal opinions. Step number 1. As with everything, the first step is the idea. As I've said in my last video, because we can't invest that much time into perfect looking art and silk smooth animation, we should concentrate on the story the most. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. It's an art in itself and you shouldn't underestimate it. Most people think that they know how to write a story, but that's only until they actually try it. So there's a reason why most people on Wattpad aren't all J.K. Rowlings or George R.R. Martins, and you shouldn't assume that you are going to be any different. This is going to be a little awkward after all my talk about putting your focus on the story, but story writing isn't actually my strong point. Still, if you would ask me where to start your story writing journey, I would say that the book Story Genius by Lisa Cron is a good point. While it is marketed as a story blueprint, it is more of an explanation what stories even are, and it is giving you some great help in starting and getting your story running. Step number 2. Now that we've got our story in mind, or maybe even written down, we are ready to start. Storyboarding? Well, that's how studios go about it. They make little sketch comics to show which person stands where and what angle at what moment. And that's necessary if you have more than one person doing the drawing. As that isn't the case with us, we can forget about it. Some people like it regardless, and if you think that it is helping you gather your thoughts and ideas more easily, then you go girl. Step number 3. This one is hard to decide, because if you go about dubbing your anime all by yourself, I would tell you to start by making the audiobook. Once you've done that, it's easier to draw to the exact time length that is needed. But since this is my channel and I can say whatever, I'm saying step 3 is already drawing. In an anime studio, there are different people doing different things, like line work, background art, coloring, keyframes, in-betweens, but we will have to do everything ourselves. And again, don't worry if you think that this is sounding like it's all too much. I'm going to show you in later videos exactly what those things are and how you can simplify your process. You'll see that it's not all that complicated. In the end, all you have to do is create pictures that give the illusion of motion. And that, my friends, is not all that hard. Step number 4. In this step, we basically take all of our pictures and mash them together. Kind of like your parents used to do with those baby photo collages, the only difference being that our mashing together shouldn't embarrass us too much. So what you need is just a basic video editing program that has these 3 functions. First, you need the ability to cut your pictures to exact frame lengths, because that is helping you with the illusion of movement. I'm going to show you later on what are 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s and so on, but that's not that important now. What you need to know is that you need that. Then, your program should allow overlapping of more than 6 layers. You will want to have a background, 1 or 2 moving characters, and maybe a moving object in your scene. So you'll need those layers. And the last needed function is the moving of your pictures around. If you have a scene where your character is throwing a fistful of bread on the ground, like I do, you don't want to redraw that bread for 70 times. You will draw 1 piece of bread and then use your editing program to move it around. Actually, my next video will be dedicated to exactly that. Lazy movement, as I like to call it. Step number 5. Now that you are done with all the visual stuff, the sound of your anime is just as important. And I'm not going to show you every detail of it, but a few things to know are: if you are dubbing it with a lot of different people which all have different mics, it might sound a little off in the end. Whenever possible, just use one mic. Also, use sound effects. For walking on the street, for rattling a bush, for everything. It gives your anime extra believability. And don't forget to sprinkle some music here and there. You don't always need it, but sometimes it can amplify the emotional effect of your scene. Just watch out that the music that you do use is fitting the mood of your scene. And the last thing is, keep an eye on the sound level. You don't want the sound effect of your heroes walking being louder than them talking, even if they're built like Hulk. It makes watching your project just so much harder, and you want to make it as easy as possible for the audience. So, those are my 5 steps for making your own anime. In every one of those steps, there's a lot more info still to discover, and we're going to find out all of it when we again get great together.